Welcome to the Supplement Engineer Podcast. I'm your host, Robert Chinetsky. Today we are joined by the founder and CEO of AZOTH Nootropics, Mr. Prady Tewarie. Thanks for joining us, Prady. How are you, man?
Dude, it's a pleasure to be on the show. I was just saying, off there, we've been talking a little bit here and there for quite a while. I think it's been a year since you and I have actually been chatting first. And it's good to be here on the podcast with you, man, and share, go a little more deeper. I know the first time you and I actually chatted on the phone, I think we spoke for almost an hour, so I know that this is going to be great.
Yeah, it was probably around Christmas time last year, I think, the first time we talked. And then I've known about the brand. I want to say it's coming on 2 years now that I got this email out of the blue about saying, hey, we've got this new nootropic that we want to try. We want to get your thoughts on it. And, and the formula was so novel at the time compared to everything else that you would see, and which we'll get into that in a second. It's just,
Absolutely.
It's crazy how much has happened in just a short amount of time that we've known each other.
For sure, man, for sure. This is going to be exciting. And I told you when you emailed me, I was like, man, nothing's off limits. People who know me, I speak my mind. So feel sorry for some people if I am not as PC as some people would like it, but I will. It's going to be entertaining, that for sure.
That's what we appreciate here. So let's start with the origin story, man. How did you get into the supplement industry? What led you to create this brand? And how did you come up with the original formula?
Yeah, man. So as far as the supplement and fitness industry, I don't speak about it too much, but I actually I started bodybuilding when I was in my teenage years, and so I was huge in the fitness community, especially from the bodybuilding side, the competitive side, which right now is not as big as it used to be. When some time back, the competitive aspect was huge.
Mm-hmm.
I got into it my teenage years. I kept competing while I was in college. I did state level, local level, and ended up going to the national level, and then and this is all in the OCB, which is not the NPC. The OCB is a drug-free national organization, and I competed in that. And then a year and a half ago, in April of 2017, I finally turned professional in the OCB as a drug-free bodybuilder. So, which was like a dream of mine actually to do that. The first time I saw a magazine was actually Dorian Yates. I was in a grocery store and I saw him and I was like, holy shit, what the hell? How can you look like that? And I remember going home and I was like, started lifting weights, and it was my goal, just to turn pro. So it took me quite a long time. I actually emailed the promoter. I think it was like 17 or 18. I asked him whether you can turn pro as a teenager, and he laughed at me. He was like, who are you? You've never competed before. So I was a little naive at the time because it's obviously one of the most difficult things I've ever done. And so I got into the industry like that, and I finally turned pro about a year and a half ago. I also, at the time, while I was going to college, I also went to law school. So I'm a corporate attorney. And while I was in law school, I started a blog, a website called the Campus Elite. And what we did is we started writing. When I say we, I had a group of kids at law school and at college that wanted to write articles for people, like students, about how to manage their life at school and how to also go to the gym and live healthy. So we started writing a lot of blogs, and it definitely picked up some traction. And I actually we launched a pre-workout formula called Onyx at the time. Some people might have heard of it, and we launched it, and it was just a general, really good, strong pre-workout. And I moved on from that venture, but that was my first endeavor into kind of the fitness industry from not being a competitor, because there's a competitive aspect of it, and then there's a supplement side of it. And that was my first time actually learning everything about what's pricing, how do you, all the difficult stuff that we don't hear people talk about. I kind of got an understanding of that, and so those are my origin foundings of getting to the industry.
Fantastic. So let's fast forward to you decide to start AZOTH, and first of all, what does the name mean for the people that don't understand it, don't know where it comes from,
right,
and what led you to choose that name in particular?
Yeah, so I wanted to so to understand the name, I guess I'll start with that. The name AZOTH is actually a term. It's an element which was mentioned in the Old Testament, and the element AZOTH was an element which, if you were to find it, it was supposed to uncover human potential, and no one's ever found it though. So it's like this legend, this kind of mystery that people are searching for AZOTH, and what they're searching for is this kind of specific like element that's supposed to awaken all human potential. And the reason why I chose it is, which I'll get to next, which is why I founded the company and kind of what led me to the formula.
Fantastic. All right, so unleashing the human potential. Let's get into that a little bit more.
Right, man. So one of the things I've always noticed is I would use a lot of, since I was competing in bodybuilding, I would use pre-workout pre-workout formulas, energy drinks, a ton of it before a workout. But I wouldn't only use it before a workout. I would use it like throughout the day. Like I would just wake up and like take 2 scoops of like C4 of energy. Like I would do that all the time. And before an exam, before studying session. Mm-hmm. And I wasn't the only one. A lot of other people were doing it. And I started noticing, like at law school specifically, that people would take like these study drugs. People would take a ton of caffeine. Like we'd go to the library and people had like these monsters. Everyone knows that people do this stuff, right? And the question that no one's ever really asked is like, what do people actually like about those formulas? Like, is it the taste, like, or is it just like the jolt of energy? Like, what is it actually? And if you go, deeper to the root, where a lot of supplement companies and I think manufacturers go wrong, I think, is that they don't understand that these energy drinks are a means to an end. It's not that you like the energy for the energy itself, but it's what the energy provides. So for a lot of people, like for myself, it was, okay, I am now drinking this pre-workout before an exam or drinking it early in the morning so I can get more stuff done in a day. It's about productivity. And no one in the industry, like no one talks about that. Everyone's like, all right, like you want to be stimmed out. You want to have like this crazy jitter. You want to have this crazy effect. Like it's a blast, a rush, a surge. And that's awesome. But that's not what most people actually care about. What they care is they can get through the day, that they can go to class in the morning. They can work their, part-time job. They can spend time with their family at night. They can also go to the gym, when it's like 10 o'clock at night and train legs. Like they want to be able to do more in their day. But all the companies out there selling pre-workouts and energy stuff, they were only focusing on the energy part. And I always thought that was interesting because when you look at the formulas, they only last for like 30, 45 minutes, sometimes an hour or two, like a lot of strong pre-workouts. And for me, it's like, okay, so I went to the gym, but like I still have a life after the gym. Like I still got to go like work full time. I still got to, take night classes. I still have to do so much other shit in the day. So my day is not just for 45 minutes or an hour. Like that might work for athletes, that it's all they do, but for everyday people, like we have a life and we have to get shit done like after the gym as well. And that's the problem, right? If you take a pre-workout and then you crash or you're not productive after it, like what's the point? And all the studies that the companies use is like, all right, it helps with athletic performance. It helps with, getting energy, talk about ATP and all of that. And that's fantastic for athletes during training when they only train a few hours a day and the rest of the day they're relaxing and or doing stuff that's not relating to just being, doing everything, because that's all they do. They're professional athletes. But
it's rest and recovery and regen.
Exactly. But for other people, like normal people, like that's not super helpful. So there's no quote unquote pre-workout for a person, especially in our generation. Like, you and I were just talking about this. Like you have your own business, you're doing your own podcast, you're freelance writing. I'm doing 5 other things too. And so we are living in a generation, I think, it's well over 68% now of millennials have a side hustle or doing other things in their days, not just the regular 9 to 5. Like we're doing so many things in a day, and no one's addressing that. So we need a pre-workout for everyday people who are just productive. And that's where I kind of wanted to do something, because I'm like, what if we create a formula that actually just helps with productivity? It's not a stim, it's not an energy product, it's not something that gives you a boost and rush. It's not a pump product. It's something that you take that actually lasts you throughout the full day, so you actually get more done. And people say, well, Prady, what are you selling? Is it a supplement or not? I always tell them, man, I'm actually selling people time. So I sell people an opportunity to get more done in their day. So if you can have 20 more minutes in a day that you feel energized, that you get more stuff done, like 20 more minutes is an extra few hundred words, maybe writing an article, an extra few minutes you get to practice a presentation, an extra more 20 minutes you get to spend with your family. Like, what's that worth for you? And that's what I'm trying to sell with AZOTH is time. It's actually not a supplement. I've never like tried to, put it in kind of that category. Of course, it's a dietary supplement, but that's really what AZOTH is. So I've never really, compared it to like a pre-workout or anything like that. That's not what I try to do. So that's why I started AZOTH, man, to get people, get them productive, that's
a lifestyle enhancer almost.
Yes, exactly.
Cool. All right. So then, interestingly enough, You saying people like the stimulation, like the energy of energy drinks and pre-workouts, and that's why they typically use them. Interestingly enough, in neither of the two versions of AZOTH that have been released, neither of them contains caffeine. Why is that?
Yeah, so I noticed with caffeinated products is that there is definitely a dip that you feel from caffeine. Like I'm guilty for it. I used to drink a lot of caffeine, and the problem is there's a couple of problems. Like number one, you need to take more of it each time just because you build up tolerance levels. So everyone knows that. The second thing is it does cause a dip. And the problem is, so different people react to it differently, man. So some people, like, they'll take caffeine and, like, when it kind of wears off, they don't feel anything. I also know people who get massive headaches from it, and they literally, like, it's like a huge low. And I wanted to avoid that because when I'm creating this productivity formula, the one thing that you don't want, you have to understand, like, first, what is productivity? So productivity means that you have energy, you are alert, you're in a good mood, super important, you feel optimistic, you're confident, and you also don't have a ton of stress. You're not crashing. Because if you crash, I mean, I've had it a lot of times, man. It's like, 2 in the afternoon, like super sunny outside. You're working on your computer. You gotta get something done, and dude, you just feel like you're slumped, man. Like you're not like 100%. And like if you feel like that from my product, and if there's a risk in doing that, like that's not the point. So that's one of the major reasons why in AZOTH, right now, this version that we have, we don't have caffeine, but I use, theocrine instead, which is very structurally similar to caffeine, but, you don't get a lot of the come down effects.
Right. I agree. I'm a huge fan of, teacrine in it. Just in pre-workouts in general. I know some people don't experience as much of an energy burst and they prefer things like dynamine or, other stimulants with it.
Right.
But teacrine, man, it has, since day one, since I started using around, 100 to 150 milligrams dose each time, it's smooth and it keeps you feeling good and motivated all day long. It's a fantastic ingredient.
Yes, exactly. And it's not something like, you're not going to go to the gym and be like, when you're stimmed out, like I used to take like the old Jack 3D and all that stuff. And like, you feel like you're ready. I want to murder some weights, dog. Like I'm ready, so That's awesome. But for the everyday person, like that's, that unbridled energy might not be what you want to feel when you're working in front of a computer. Like when I'm trying to write a paper, or like when you're writing like one of your, like the articles that you write, they're super in depth. Like you don't want to feel unbridled energy. Like that's what I wanted to avoid. It works great for the gym. And when you like want to, they write the Punisher, I want to punish some weights, want to go all out, listen to metal. And that's great. I love those products, but that's not what we're trying to do here. We want to have something like a theocrine, which is a steady supply of energy that keeps you going, but it's not intense,
Yeah. Let's go a little bit more into the formula of AZOTH, or the current version right now. And so for the users listening, I'll rattle off the ingredients real quick. We've got ashwagandha extract at 500 milligrams, L-tyrosine at 500 milligrams, phosphatidylserine at 500 milligrams, sulbutamine at 400 milligrams, alpha-GPC at 300 milligrams, teacrine at 100 milligrams, hordenine at 50 milligrams, bioperine at 10 milligrams, and huperzine A at 100 micrograms.
Right.
So, first off, you've got a lot of the current nootropic formulas rely on basically a choline, tyrosine, caffeine, theanine combination. Something there, and they might have one or two bonus ingredients. Yours makes use of hordenine, which is not, I can't think of many, if any, nootropics that actually include that. And sulbutamine is a rarity in most of them as well. Let's dig more into sulbutamine now. For those people that don't know, do you want to explain it, or you want me to kind of give a highlight on it, or how, what was your choice for choosing that ingredient in particular?
Yeah, so I wanted to choose, and I'll have the supplement engineer obviously chime in himself, but I wanted to use. So first of all, the goal with this was not to just create just a run-of-the-mill nootropic, and the reason why is because the nootropics that are based on tyrosine and choline, they definitely work. They help with cognition and they boost that over time. But for someone who's looking for something also in the short term, like you need to get a boost, you don't want something to work after a week or two. We wanted to have both effects. You want to have something that works in the short term, but also in the long term. So yes, it is a nootropic formula, but there's a little bit more, into it. The reason why I wanted to use sulbutamine, because it is a very strong, derivative of a B vitamin. Mm-hmm. It's a little bit more controversial in some places, like in Europe. They don't allow it anymore in the dietary supplements sometimes. It's on the edge, but it's actually been used as a very strong kind of a ingredient to treat fatigue. And that's one of the reasons why we use it, because I wanted to create something that makes people alert. And that was the number one thing, that I wanted to find something that was natural, that was a derivative from a B vitamin, and that would help with combat fatigue. And that was one of the major things, and one of the reasons why I use it. It's not a run of the mill nootropic, because nootropics, they work more as choline sources, they work more in cognition. But again, our formula, that's why I wanted to go back on the major story, is also about uplifting people and not making them feel tired or fatigued. And that was one of the major reasons, not getting, into too much of the clinical side and that.
Excellent. Yeah, it's a novel ingredient, and the first time I ever saw it, I had to go back and look up what in the world this was, because I hadn't encountered it before, and this was still when I was still really getting into nootropics a couple of years ago. And it's just the mental energy that you get from it. It's not a stimulative like caffeine kind of energy, but it is it's like a heightened alertness, and just the fog is kind of cleared once you use it. And it's it's one of the novel things that really jumps out to me about the formula, and I've always really enjoyed it. So that was a smart inclusion, I think, in it. And the dose is solid too on it. It's, people use anywhere between 200 to 400 milligrams, and this has got 400 in it. So it's right in that sweet spot.
No, for sure. And we all know, we've seen in some of the, like energy drinks, you see a lot of B vitamins quite a few times, and it is for this reason. But, silbutamine obviously was used actually as a pharmaceutical, and, in East Asia, especially in Japan. The reason why they were using silbutamine, because it is the most, highly bioavailable source of B vitamins you can find. So, I think that was something that was really key, and you're totally right. It helps with this mental clarity, but also one of the ways it really works is it actually increases the neural connections that you form in the brain. And one of the ways in which that's beneficial is with reaction time, but also with just the sense of motivation and confidence that you get with it, in addition to uplifting you from fatigue. And I before I made this formula, I actually have a huge notebook, and I had various types of ingredients that I tested, and I think it's a little bit over 155 people that I used every different type of combination with, and tried silbutamine by myself, and I knew that I had a winner on hand, because I saw B vitamins being heavily used in energy drinks. But when I got my hands on silbutamine, I knew I had a winner, because on its own, it's actually pretty potent. So I'd recommend people try it on their own before they even try it in a stack.
Yeah, I would agree. I would say that with any nootropic. Make sure you always test it on its own, because once you start stacking multiple ones, it's really easy to overdose nootropics, and you go from productive to either a splitting headache or just this complete lack of motivation, and where you're just in this haze for an entire day. It's really uncomfortable.
Absolutely. Totally agree.
So, and that's what, just for the guys listening out there. So butamine it's a synthetic form of B vitamin, or it's B1 bonded to another molecule of itself that crosses the blood-brain barrier much more effectively than other B vitamins out there, or just regular B1 thiamine in itself. So that's why it was used to, like you said, treat beriberi in East Asia with Japanese sailors way back in the early part of the 1900s, because they weren't getting enough B vitamins through all their diet. So anyway, okay, so let's go. You said you were testing out early formulas on 150 people. How long was this formula in development before you actually released it? Version 1, I guess.
Right. So, and I want to just give a little background, because there was version 1 and version 2. People only know version 2. Version 1 had a lot of the similar ingredients, but it had Noopept, and it had phenylpiracetam in it as well. Yep. So those were some heavy hitters. You'll still see some Noopept quite here and there, but what ended up happening is that both of those ingredients were ones that the FDA didn't really particularly like, but what they were doing then, they were actually going after payment vendors. So they shut down our system of collecting payment, and they actually they basically seized our account, and we had to start from scratch pretty much. So that was our version 1.0, and that version was released around January of 2016-ish, I think. So it's almost been it's been around the 2-year mark. We switched, and then when we switched, we went to, AZOTH 2.0, which was what you guys see today. Now, in total, the production, so when I released in 2016, I had started developing this the first year of law school. So this was I think about two years, man, before I got this formula right.
Wow. Okay, so then you've got the formula created. What are then the initial steps? A wannabe supplement company owner, what's his first steps when he's trying to get a product released? You don't have to disclose names of vendors that you went to, obviously, because there's lots of NDAs and stuff like that involved. But what are the initial steps somebody has to take when they're starting to try and found a company?
Yep. So the first step, everyone's going to take you through different steps. My first step is you have to talk to people. You have to talk to users. So we all live in our own minds, and we all have our own circles and our own bubbles. But if you want to create a product that actually makes money and is successful, you have to talk to people who are not like you. So a lot of people make products just for themselves. I was like, man, I wanted this, but it's not about me. Like, if I want to make a product for myself, that's not a business. That's a hobby that I do for fun. Like, people think business, it's not a hobby. And, we see this right now in our political climate, like in 2016, people were just talking to themselves. Everyone got everything wrong in the polls because they were not going out there talking to everyday Americans, right? Mm-hmm. And we think, this is far-fetched, but it's not. You see this in business a lot. So talk to your user. So first, find out, you have a formula, find out what it's for, and then find out whether actually people care about this product and would they actually use it. So I did a lot of my homework. I had about 150 people that I tested on various ingredients, but my first step was to find a manufacturer that I could trust and that was willing to work with me to create this formula from scratch. The manufacturers will do two things. They'll either have stock formulas, which you buy, which are ready-made formulas and you slap your label on it, or you can make a custom run. The custom runs are, you tell them what you want to make, they'll make it for you. Those are expensive, and you need to order quite a bit more. But what I did, I shelled out the cost, but I actually had a bit of samples produced. I think at that time it was a little bit over 700 units that I had produced, and I had sent them strategically to people to test them out from all walks of life. Like, I had it just as a tested out, not just on bodybuilders, but I had it tested on working professional, working moms, construction workers, quite a bit of them. I had people at law school. I had some of my professors that I was close to try it. So it was a very broad audience. That was the first thing. So the first thing you do, you find a manufacturer. I would always tell people, talk to your customers and make sure you have a customer base. And that's the first thing. So, and then once you have your manufacturer, you have to then, which is the most important part, figure out what you're going to price it at and what you're going to buy it at. And I would love to go into that because it's a interesting topic, and I think a lot of supplement companies shoot themselves in the foot doing that.
Yeah. Do these contract manufacturers, do they get pushy with the formulas? Do they try to sway you to use their stock formula so it's less work on them, or do they more casual? They just say, we'll do it. It's just going to cost you an arm and a leg. Is it that way, or is there a lot of push to either dull your formula down or just use one of their ready-made go formulas?
No, actually, they make more money on the quote-unquote custom runs because you have to order way more, and there's not a lot of you can't order. If you do one of those stock formulas, you can order, I know some manufacturers that are willing to do 20 bottles, literally, that's it. So there's no much money outlay.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
I thought the smallest run they would do is 144. Wow. Okay.
Yeah. There are 2 or 3 manufacturers that have done up to 20 that I know. 144 is still super low, and that is I think we were talking about the same manufacturer that does that, but that's still a good very low. But custom, you have to definitely go in the hundreds, or most manufacturers, they want in the thousands. So are they going to push you for either? They don't really care because they actually, I think, like the custom ones more because they feel like you're more tied to it because it's yours, and you're not just going to buy 20 and then just be like, this is not for me, because you don't have much skin in the game, right? So
yeah. Did you have to vet many manufacturers before you found one? Because I don't think most consumers are aware of how big the manufacturing pool to choose from is. So can you go into that a little bit more?
Absolutely, yes. There are a lot of manufacturers, a lot. You're talking hundreds and hundreds. So you can go on Google and be contract manufacturer supplements, and you'll find it'll go all the way in page 50 on Google. You'll find quite a bit. So you have to vet them, and the best way to vet them is the general stuff, and some newbies forget that. Make sure they'll put you on number one, they have insurance, and they'll put you on their added insured. It's not a sexy topic to talk about, but you always want to make sure that a manufacturer on their insurance policy, that your name is added to it. So if something goes wrong, because I'm an attorney, so I can talk about this a little bit, but the question always is, who is liable, right? So if someone produces something and it's a bad batch, are you the brand reliable, or is the contract manufacturer liable? But if it's, you want to make sure that you have your own insurance, but you want to also be covered for errors that they make. So you want to make sure that they're willing to add you on the added insured. I just think it's so important. And I know I've talked to quite a bit, a few new supplement owners, and they have no clue about this. So that's the first thing. The second thing I always tell people is either find a way to go there and meet them in person and look at their facility, or ask them for, like, I don't know, we take modern technology, dude. Like, I did FaceTime a lot. I was like, show me your facility. And what you'll actually notice is that there's not that many contract manufacturers that there's like a handful of them, and they just own like different names. Like, it's all the same. They're all in the same street. Like, you'll notice on one street, there's like A, B, C, D, E, like they're all in the same town. Like, what's going on? It's all the same. And all the smaller ones, they're brokers. So they're not really manufacturers. So you're actually also paying a broker fee. So a lot of manufacturers are not manufacturers. They're actually brokers. So you should ask them, hey, are you a real manufacturer or are you a broker? And if so, can I see your facility? Can I just come down? And a lot of people don't want to make the expense. If you're going into this, like if you're going to go in fully in, you should know where your stuff is made. So take do a road trip, go there, take a plane, meet with the guys that are going to run your stuff and see their facility firsthand. And that alone is going to weed out a lot of people. Like, just asking for insurance and asking whether they're legit or a broker, you're going to weed out quite a few people. And then you're going to get into their response time. And then the last time, like response time, meaning if you ask someone for a formula, they're like, yeah, I'll get back to you in 3 weeks. Like, that's not going to work. And then you need someone who's also has manufacturing capability. This is important too. You need to work backwards in life, like especially in business, because we just think forward. And what I mean by that is like, okay, well, I'm a small manufacturer. I need like 1,000 bottles and that's it. The problem is that, or it's not a problem. The good thing is that hopefully you will scale one day and you'll get an order from a retailer. It's like, hey, can we get 1,500 units? But you've never actually asked your manufacturer whether they can actually manufacture 1,500 units in a month. They can't. Most need like really 14, 16 weeks just to manufacture like 1,500 units. Now, you don't have another manufacturer, so then you're screwed. And then the guys at the retailer are like, hey, where are my bottles? And they're like, oh, sorry, I can't fulfill your order. And then you will go down. So make sure that your manufacturer can not only work with you today, but it can also work with you tomorrow. And those are two different things. And you'll see this not only in the supplement industry, but I mean, you go on like Shark Tank and all these guys, like they have all these big Kickstarter projects and they're like funded, and all of a sudden they get a big order from Walmart and then they can't handle it because they never asked their supplier, hey, can you actually make 1 million units? Yeah, you can make 1,000. Can you make 1 million? No, they can't. So I always make sure that, number one, they're legally covered. I get to meet them in person. And number three, that they are capable of working with me, not when I'm just a small fish, but when I'm actually going to be out there and making big deals. Because I need a manufacturer. I'm going out right now and meeting retailers. And if a retailer, I want to make sure that I can fulfill what they need. If they can't, I hang, you know?
Right. Now, there's two areas right there that you just brought up. You brought up retailers and Shark Tank. So let's address the Shark Tank thing first. And for people that don't know, is that if you're okay going into this, is that you I don't know the actual parameters of it, but you either signed a deal or somehow you met up with Kevin Harrington, who was one of the original sharks on Shark Tank, to start getting some TV airtime for AZOTH. So how did that meetup happen? What's going to be his exact role with the company, if there is any? And how has the relationship been so far?
Yeah, for sure. So what actually ended up happening is that around the winter time last year, and the reason why I can speak about this passionately about this, what I just mentioned, is because I fell in the same boat. I went on, we were just doing e-commerce before. We had AZOTH 1.0. Amazon would never accept this because it's like a gray market formula.
Right.
We went on Amazon with AZOTH 2.0. And, we were making like, at the time, we were small, man. Like, there's a lot of companies that you're going to talk to do thousands of units. I mean, I'm talking about maybe like 5 or 6 units, maybe a week, maybe like 10 units. We went on Amazon and we were doing like 20. The first day I went on, we made 20 sales a day, which was a lot for us.
Wow.
And then all of a sudden we made 50, 100, 200, and it was like, and I was like, holy shit, like, what's going on? Like, it's crazy. So, what ended up happening, our ranking spiked. So we were, number like 2,000 something. And then we spiked all the way like to number 200, like literally in like, it was in a weekend actually in November where this happened. I remember I was away on a family event and I kept seeing my phone and I kept ringing from all the orders and I was like, holy shit, what's happening? So when that happened, we had a PR team that reached out to us, which this was Yahoo News or Business Insider. They're like, we saw this spike, like what's going on? We'll write something about it. We just want to cover what's going on. It's going to be a neutral article, nothing. I was like, yeah, why don't you do it? So they pushed the article out. It got picked up by a couple of some of these news outlets, and then someone from Kevin's team reached out and was like, hey, we saw this article. Would you be willing to talk to? First, they just wanted Kevin's team to talk to me before it ever got to Kevin.
Right.
We talked back and forth. I sent them the product, met with them, and they were like, all right, well, we don't know right now because the sales are good, but they're not crazy. So why don't we wait a little bit? So there was some initial interest. And then that manifested as we've grown now, on Amazon and just, through e-commerce is, they were like, all right, we're interested. And also I was in a good spot because nootropics have really taken off. And nootropics took off like last year and a half, 2 years really. And I started working on AZOTH in, it was like October 2014 or something. So I was at the forefront while this was coming out. So I'm taking advantage of all the marketing that the movie Limitless and all this stuff is doing. Is helping me, so right now we're always on the first page of Amazon. If you look for nootropics, like AZOTH is on there. So long story short, we just met with Kevin again, this past week, and we finalized that he's going to help us. Actually, he's going to do a commercial for us. It's as seen on TV, one of those kind of cheesy commercials. I'm crazy about it, but Kevin is going to lead the commercial. He's going to say, hey, I'm Kevin Harrington. I stand behind AZOTH, blah, blah. And he's going to run it on the air. He's not involved in the company, in any way as far as like an investment or anything like that. It's just that there's a deal for television. So any like sales that come from televisions, there's a reimbursement that way, but there's no, official investment into the company
he doesn't have a partial ownership or anything. Like that.
No, there's no ownership. This is more like, hey, we're going to do this thing together on television, and whatever you make from television, we'll work out some sort of commission structure. So that's kind of how he's involved, but having his name, behind obviously the company and him, reaching out, himself, which was super cool. So I'm super excited about that.
With his commercial going in, are you going to start moving into more brick and mortar retailers, or are you still going to focus primarily on Amazon for sales?
Yeah, it's been a tough decision, man. So I want to just paint the landscape for some people too. So like 10 years ago or 20 years ago, maybe even longer before Amazon was around, the power was with manufacturers and not with retailers. So you're a big brand and a retailer has to come after you. Hey, like, please come into our stores. Please come into our stores. Now this has changed. Now retailers are the powerful people and manufacturers are the guys that want to be in the store. So there's a whole power shift. So the way it works in big box retailers like Walmart, you'll tell Walmart, hey, can we be in your stores? And Walmart will be like, okay, here's my aisle, stock it. So they'll tell you to stock their aisle. They'll be like, give us 10,000 units. We're not going to pay you for these units. We're only going to pay you after someone's bought it 90 days later. So you have to shell out all this money.
Wow. So
they don't pay. So usually when a retailer comes to you, like, hey, can I get 1,000 units of your product? And then they give you money for 1,000 units, and then they sell. That's their problem. But now what they do is it's no risk to them. You give them 1,000 units for free, and only when what they sell, they pay you on 90 days later. So I don't know if anyone's been watching a Walmart and their stock, but if you look at what they're doing on their balance sheet, you actually notice that they are trying to get into a zero inventory model, which means that Walmart doesn't want any inventory, which means that other people are just giving them, like Amazon doesn't have any inventory, right? Like people send them stuff.
Right.
So they're trying to compete with Amazon and say, well, we don't want inventory either. We just have aisles in our store, and vendors are just going to stock it, and we only pay them what we sell. We're just a medium. We're not buying any product anymore. So they stopped doing that. And what that means for startups and smaller companies, you'll get a purchase order from Walmart for we had a small purchase order from Walmart online, which we did, which is good. But then you have CVS and Kroger, and they'll be like, we'll take why don't you give us like 8,000 units? And then you have to fund that. So every bottle of a product might cost you, $20 or $50, whatever you're paying. So you have to have that cash available to pay them, but you don't get any money back. And if they don't sell any, or if something happens, and by the time you get the money, you have to be able to be very good with cash flow. So retail is a very interesting space right now, especially big box retailers. So right now, what I'm doing is I want to grow AZOTH to a point where we have real leverage. So where it's like we can actually be in a table and talk to these retailers about maybe there's other creative ways to help them out and help us out. But otherwise, man, like e-commerce and especially Amazon is the way to go, man. There's no there's no, it's way better. There's no cash flow problem, and it's actually something that I've enjoyed doing much more, and it's more profitable, to be honest.
I would imagine so. If there's lower overhead, there's lower capital investment, probably. I mean, you mentioned that, Walmart or some of them would say they want an 8,000 bottle commitment. Is there a bottom threshold from Amazon and other, like bodybuilding.com, if y'all ever did that, or, Tiger Fitness or any of those?
No, there isn't. So, like Amazon, they don't really care. You make your own listing. You're responsible for your own product. They don't care. All that they want is, they just, whenever you sell a product, they take a commission. That's it. So you don't have a commitment for anything. So Amazon is literally, so we get the bottles from our manufacturer. Mm-hmm. We send it from our facility. We send it to Amazon. And then whenever there's an order comes in, Amazon ships it for us if you order through Amazon Prime. Right. And then they take a huge cut. It's not a small one, a pretty huge one. They take up to like $12 to $13 a bottle, per bottle sold. So it's a lot. And then that's how it works. But Amazon doesn't care how much you have in the inventory. I mean, they don't have any demands.
Okay.
Yep.
All right. Wow. Fascinating stuff. This is all the facets of the industry that the consumers don't know. I know very little about it, just myself. I tend to stick more towards the ingredients and nerding out on those. And consumers really, they want their Kraken Stims, and the occasional consumer likes the productivity supplements or the joint supplements and stuff like that. But, pre-workouts and protein tend to be the big, well, that's what it seems like, the big cash cow. But I think we tend, like you said, you get mired down in your own little world. And I think my entry into this was through the bodybuilding supplement stuff, but it's expanding and trying to make people realize, look, you've got all of these other things like adaptogens, you've got joint health stuff, you've got just wellness formulas. And as much as I don't want not nuts about them, the detox formulas and all of that kind of crap, which doesn't work, but it's a huge supplement market and people buy the stuff like crazy.
Yeah. I think it's important to have so that's why I really like that you're doing this, because if consumers are interested in hearing the other part, like what supplement companies do and like some of the struggles they face, it's good sometimes because it helps to change the conversation a little bit. So I'll give you an example. A lot of consumers get very angry at price, or they get very angry at certain things, but they have to understand how it works from our end. So one of the difficult things, and I want to mention this too for some people who are interested, manufacturers work by, they give different price breaks at different quantities you order, like any contract manufacturer, right? So let's say I want to buy pre-workout from a manufacturer, and it's going to cost me $10, and I get 1,000 bottles for $10. So that's 10,000. Then I have to give them $10,000, right? Mm-hmm. Now the next price break at for me to get it to $5 a bottle, they're not going to make it like 1,500 bottles. They'll make it like 10,000 bottles or 50,000 bottles.
Right.
The problem is you can never reach that level by selling your product at like a regular everyday price. So if I sell my product right now, if I get 1,000 bottles and I pay $10 per bottle from a manufacturer, it means I'm 10,000 out. Now I'm going to go online and see, okay, all the pre-workouts are $20, so I have to sell mine for 20. Say I sell all of them out. Now I have only made $10,000 as profit. Now with the $10,000, I can order only 1,000 bottles. So every time I order, I just order 1,000 bottles, and I can't order more. I can't scale more. I can't hire more people. So you're always stuck. So you see a lot of supplement companies, they're doing well. They're selling a lot of product, but they're not really like making
a huge profit.
Yeah, they're making a huge profit, but they're also not growing in the number of quantity of units they order, because the next price break with their manufacturer, you go to a manufacturer, like, okay, can I now get it for like $5 a bottle? They're like, okay, well, you got to order, 10,000 units, and then it's $5. So now I have to have $50,000 cash, but every single time I've only made $10,000. So there's not enough in my bank until, sometimes years go by for me to actually order that. So the only way to do that, and I always tell new supplement owners, and this is going to be, because consumers are not going to like this, but it's okay sometimes to make your product expensive, because that's the only way you can survive. So when I had AZOTH 1.0 and people were pissed about this, I had 10 servings and I sold it for almost $80. And it was absolutely, people said it's ridiculous, and I got blasted on Anabolic Minds. But I was like, look, I like the product, but if you want more of AZOTH, I can't keep this company going, because I was literally losing money. So at that time, a regular product, like I was talking to Rich Gaspari, he was at a store, and he was like, man, I don't produce anything if it's not $3 a bottle. Like, that's just his thing. So it's super cheap, right? But for nootropics,
I'll tell you something about their supplements. I'm not going to say anything, but that gives
they have a supplement manufacturer that's their partner, so that's their investor is this manufacturer. So they obviously get super cheap pricing. They're not using contract manufacturing per se. So, but for us, like AZOTH is really expensive to make, like super expensive. Like we're talking, I was probably one of it was like no margins, even at like $80, I was not making a lot. So for me, the only way to actually get to the next price break and to get where I am today, I had to charge that much up front. So the reason why I mentioned that is because people need to understand how smaller companies have to work with manufacturers. When you're a small company, you're going to get bullied by everyone. First, you get bullied by the manufacturers because they're going to get you in. Like, oh yeah, you can order 100 bottles and it's like, 10, 20 bucks, it's okay. But if you want to now become a big player and you want to fulfill a retail order, you need to have the next price break is at like 10,000 bottles. So it becomes difficult in that regard to work with that. And then the second thing, you get also a little bullied around with retailers. So in the beginning stages, it's very difficult to be a supplement owner. So I didn't want to paint that picture for everyone, because people know that getting in the supplement industry is easy. There's not a lot of barriers. There's not a lot of laws and regulations, but being actually a force and surviving it for a year, that's another story,
Do you have any idea of what the survival rate for new startups is? I don't. That's why I'm asking this. You are more knowledgeable on that side of the industry. What the survival rate is for the new companies that just kind of pop up? Because we're seeing, 3 and 4 new supplement companies, it seems, pop up every week or every other week. And you just wonder, with this constant influx of companies, how many of them actually survive?
Yeah, so I don't know the rate exactly in the dietary supplement world, and I think it would be I think it probably just going to follow what's like usual in the U.S. And I know the most recent that I read on Forbes was that only 30% survive the first 3 years. So it's 70% never make it past the third year. I don't know what happens in the first year, but it's very low. I think like 8 out of 9, like 9 out of 10 never even make it past the first 5 years. So I would say it's probably going to be even more for the follow-up rate is going to be bigger for supplements because it's very low cost and very easy to get started with one. Like anyone, you can have a website, a Shopify site, which is like, I don't know, like $30 or so. And then you need a supplement, which you can get a stock formula for, like $15. You get a pre-workout, you probably for $1,000, you have a supplement company with logo, everything.
Yeah. Wow, man, this is stuff that people never really understand. So it's glad to be able to kind of bring this stuff into the light.
Oh, for sure.
And just, I guess, in starting the company, what have been a few of your biggest challenges or hurdles that you've had to overcome, and just learn? What were some of the learning pains along the way?
Right. So some of the learning pains within this was just understanding, first of all, like all this stuff that I'm mentioning to you, like the whole retail dynamic, was super, now you can speak about it intelligibly, because even I'm sure there's a lot of stuff that I still am learning, but like that concept was like, is one thing, obviously someone telling you and learning from it, but then actually when you're deep down in it and you're investing funds, you're like, holy shit, I did everything wrong. And I didn't know any about this stuff. Like that was a key thing. So understanding, pricing structure, understanding like what it takes to run a business. But I think the other thing too with nootropics in general is like one of the hurdles we face is that there's a big education cost required with them, because my audience and my quote unquote like early adopters and my circle of people is people in the bodybuilding industry, and they don't really understand what nootropics are. So for me, it's always like I have to constantly. You can't just be like, okay, this is a pre-workout. And they're like, okay, let me try it, and I feel stimmed out. It's a good one. If I don't, it's shit. But with nootropics, they're like, okay, they don't even know what to look for. They don't know what's good or bad. And like, I think half of the time in the beginning, I was trying to keep explaining to people to not compare it to a pre-workout, to not compare it to X. And so you're constantly trying to frame nootropics for other people, because AZOTH might be the first one they've ever taken. Not a lot of people have maybe taken in the bodybuilding industry, haven't taken Onnit's, Alpha Brain, or other stuff. So they don't know what to compare it to. So that was the first thing. Dealing with nootropics is that just the education cost is super high, and you have to be on top of like explaining to people what it actually is. The second thing also is there's a lot of noise, and it's a lot of noise of people telling you what to do and how to do stuff. Like you'll listen, some people say you got to do this marketing. Someone's going to say you got to have this social media agency, and every like Tom, Dick, and Harry is going to come out and try to give you advice, especially in the supplement world. It's just like any other business, but you have to be really good at listening to signal and not to noise. And I think that's important in anything in life, but also especially in in this industry because it is so easy to start a supplement company, and because most people that are, oh, I started one too when I was in college. So everyone's like, oh, I started one too. So everyone has their advice, but you have to know, you have to truly understand and trust your gut sometimes and go with your instincts about what you think what is the right approach and what's not a right approach. And most of the things that actually lead to success are not things you see. So we're an industry that's full of like superficial stuff. So we show on Instagram, but that's not the stuff that actually makes you run a successful business. And you'd be surprised if you actually get to know some of the supplement owners and their financials. They're not doing really well, but they present themselves very well on social media, and it's a farce a lot of times. And so the goal always is to be like, okay, I know my business, I know how to run this business, and I know how to be successful running my business, and I'm going to stick to my plan a lot of times and pivot when needed, but not listening to every noise that you hear. Because someone's like, I know some guys like, oh man, I heard this formula is doing well. I know this formula is doing well. I need to do this, and they do have 30 things, and it's not the right way. And the question that always follows is like, are there more products? You have AZOTH, you have Total Energy. We're not planning at the moment. I had some plans sometimes for other products. There are still plans to test out some new stuff, but the goal was to really get good with AZOTH 2.0 and make that a home run, you know?
Okay, well, good. You already touched on one of the questions I was going to ask you a little bit later on is what other formulas were in development. So right now we're focusing on Total Energy and AZOTH.
Correct. Yep.
Let's go into Total Energy a bit. How long has that been on the market, and did you formulate it as an adjunct to AZOTH or as something completely separately? Obviously there's some synergism, or there's a lot of synergism between the two formulas, but were you looking to address maybe something that reviewers had mentioned was missing from AZOTH, or was it just you really liked this formula and you wanted to get something that was caffeine based?
Right. Yeah. It was, dude. It was super about the fact. It was all customer feedback. A lot of people were saying that they wanted something that gives them a little more energy because they felt like AZOTH did it, but they were using it with coffee. And I used to get a lot of DMs from people like taking AZOTH with coffee and AZOTH with coffee and caffeine. I was like, okay, well, I still don't want to make a caffeinated product. So it was actually an adjunct to AZOTH 2.0. We released it late spring, early summer. It's not been out for too long. It is totally always purchased in combination with AZOTH 2.0 is how people usually buy it. But now we've started to see some sales from it by itself. I haven't even started a full marketing campaign on it, anything yet. But the goal again was customer demand for saying, hey, we want a little bit more of the energy side of stuff. And then me saying, okay, well, I still want to have a product that is authentic to what the company stands for and the products that I want to put out, which are products that help with productivity. So if I were going, I got a lot of people saying, we should make something that's a pre-workout with octadrene and DMA and all that stuff. And that's great. I love those things, but I didn't want to do that because then it's like, all right, well, that's not it doesn't fit in line with the productivity side of stuff. So this is for people who want a little bit more of the energy kick from it. And that's why there is caffeine in the product, but it comes from, it was a great article that, our good friend here, Rob wrote for us about yerba mate, which is a different type of caffeine, in the product. And exactly. So it's an adjunct product, man.
Yeah. So for everybody listening out there, the facts on Total Energy, you get 500 milligrams of MCT oil, which is going to it's a different type of fat that's going to be readily used your body can use it like glucose, so it's a rapidly accessible form of energy. You're also getting 400 milligrams of yerba mate, which is going to supply 120 milligrams of caffeine. And then the quick read on yerba mate is that it's basically the combination of coffee and tea combined. You're getting the best of both worlds from both because you're also getting some theobromine in there, which is going to be some smooth, long-lasting energy. You're also getting 200 milligrams of L-theanine, which is going to help tighten and dial in the focus of caffeine from the yerba mate, and 200 milligrams of rhodiola rosea, which is a pretty potent and well-known adaptogen for helping balance out neurotransmitters and feel-good stuff in the body.
Absolutely. Thanks for that rundown, man. But yeah, people will know it's a kind of a versatile profile of ingredients, like with the MCT oil and yerba mate. Like people who does that, it's like a little bizarre. Like people say like, oh, that's so strange combination. It's like the same thing we did with AZOTH 2.0. Like, why would you put phosphatidylserine and like theocrine in a product? Like, why? Those are almost like opposite things. One's supposed to calm you down kind of and deal with stress, and the other one is supposed to kind of make you feel energized. But that's the point. If we work on the goal was to have a rounded out profile of a product that would exactly, the goal is just one thing. I care about one thing, which is I want people to become more productive. If someone says, hey, I got to spend 10 more minutes, with my parents or doing work, that's all I care about. So that's what's in my mind when I produce these things.
Yeah, that's what I think the goal for, I guess, most productivity supplements or nootropics should be, is that getting stimulation and focus, but you want it to be a dialed in and a controlled focus, not just the pre-workout focus where it's let me run through a wall as hard and as fast as I can. It's with nootropics, you want something that's kind of smooth, and you still need that boost, that alertness that wakes you up, but you also need the ability to rein that energy and that stimulation in and actually direct it towards a goal, so you're actually getting work done and not just sitting there stimmed out looking, bouncing between 12 different websites.
Absolutely. I'm gonna like hammer that down, how important it is. And that's because it's a different market. So, I don't want people to leave the podcast thinking, oh, like this is going to replace, my stim product. It's not. We're not competing with pre-workout here.
No, although I have used I just personally speaking, focus is the thing I crave most in a pre-workout. So I'll use the stack of Total Energy and AZOTH, and I'll sprinkle in some bulk citrulline or something like that if I wanted to get some enhanced nitric oxide going. But for a low stim pre-workout, or if I'm training late in the afternoons with Sandy, it's a solid pre-workout. And I've been giving her AZOTH like crazy lately because she's been teaching some really long days, and she's just every day she's upbeat and alert on it. So it's a winner with her too. It's been a winner for me for over a year. So
that's fantastic, man. Do you know who now our biggest audience is? Because I can see on Amazon, because it started with athletes, but it's actually women, man, like millennial women.
Really, I was going to guess gamers, just because I know nootropics are huge in the gaming sphere.
Yeah, no, it's actually a lot of women. So Amazon doesn't give us a ton of data, but we can see like who's ordering and like where it's, and some of the breakdown. And it's like, it just in the last like 3 months, it's been like a big concentration of like, women who are using it, for work or for a variety of things that they're managing. And obviously they're managing sometimes more things than the average male is, and with so many things that they're doing. So which is great, because that's not, see, again, like when I make the product, and I'm happy that I tested it out on so many people, because my people I talk to, and they're, my closest friends are all bodybuilders, that I work out with. So this is great to see see different types of people using it and enjoying it.
Do you, going back to earlier, you said that education is a huge part of nootropics. Now, we've been seeing the steady increase in awareness of nootropics over the past 2 years with movies like Limitless and other things like that. It seems like a lot of people still don't understand the place for nootropics, or what, I guess, anticipated effects of it. And it's not supposed to be this crazy stimulant experience. It's similar to what you would get from a cup of coffee to start your day, but it's different in that it's not just this harsh kick to the face that gets you going. So where do you think what can the industry do better, I guess, to attract the consumers and better inform them?
Yeah, I think the nootropic industry, I think they need to talk more about why like the fact that so they need to attract more the people doing stuff today, like in our kind of generation, in today's age, 2008, it doesn't matter which generation you're from, but about the fact that we're juggling so many things and how the product can fit in their lives. And the reason why it's important, man, is because I think there's been a shift. And I always call this the shift between a corporation-centric shift to a customer-centric shift. Like back in the day, it was like, all right, we're a corporation. We're going to tell you what to take. You take it. I have a lab coat, so I know what I'm doing. You don't even worry what's in the product. Now, customers are like, no. We want to know what's in there, and I'll decide whether it's good for me or not. And because that's the case, I think when it comes to nootropics or any products, we should, as companies, should find ways in which we can explain or help or paint a picture for customers to show them how this product can actually fit in their lives and how it can play a role in their lives, as opposed to them changing their life to make the product kind of work. Because that's what a lot of supplement companies do. Like, oh, don't do that. You need to have this meal. You need to have that. Like, it's like, okay, well, a lot of them say like take it on an empty stomach. I never have an empty stomach. Like I wake up and I eat. I'm a bodybuilder. Like most people are eating. So maybe there's ways in which we can explain people how it fits their lifestyle. And that's, I think, one of the most important things, especially for this product that's a lifestyle product. So that's a task that I'm still trying to work on, because most of the marketing I do is just when I speak to people, because I do quite a bit of talks and stuff. And I try to find ways in which, people ask me what it is or how they can use it. I'm like, no, you don't have to change your lifestyle for this product. This product can fit your lifestyle. This is how.
Perfect. You mentioned that bodybuilding several times now. You're still actively training. With somebody that's running a successful company and traveling as much as you do, how do you fit your training in with that and balance that along with still maintaining and running the business?
Yeah, so that's definitely been, I'm glad you asked that because that's one of the key things you just mentioned, like what are some of the struggles? I run, this company, is just kind of my, like the running admin side of this company is myself. And then there's, another guy, a good friend of mine now, his name is Pete, and he's behind the scenes. He doesn't really, talk much or isn't like, he just grinds and he works, and he's based in the UK. I met him through Anabolic Minds, the forums, and what he's been doing is all the retail stuff, he handles. So he's been just amazing. He's just like, kind of the, one of my better friends, one of my best friends right now, that I have. So he and I kind of run the whole show. So we're running this company completely like by ourselves. So it is very, very tough. And I'm getting to the point now, where there is opportunity where I think, we'll need to hire and grow, as far as our team. So a lot of it right now is to figure out, and I call this the 80-20 rule, which is, as everyone's probably heard about this, or most people have, is where are the most of those successes coming from? So always that concept is that 80% of your results come from 20% of the things you do. So in order to master peak productivity, since we're talking about productivity, my goal is to figure out every day with AZOTH, just like where are most results coming from and how can we double down on those things. And the reason why I haven't like spent time making it into having huge office spaces and hundreds of reps and all that stuff is because I don't think it's necessary. It's not what the company actually requires at this point. And I think more CEOs and companies, they get more stuck people managing than helping their customers. Like you can't do both at the same time sometimes. So I wanted to focus a whole lot on product development and being in touch with the customer as opposed to growing into, hundreds of people. I've decided actively not to do that, but that also means that our work is definitely growing. How do I manage it? I survive on very, very, very little sleep. So that is for sure. I barely sleep. I work out first thing in the morning, like the minute, it can be usually is at 4:00, and I work out 4:30 till usually, 5:30, 6 o'clock. And then once that's done, I like to work out in the morning because in the evening or in the afternoon, like something can always come up. But in the morning, like most people aren't even awake at like 4 or 5. So the ability that something else is going to come up, like, is so little. And I always say, when you set up your life, like, if you want to be successful, everything in your life has to support that success. So I make sure that if I want to be successful in my fitness goals, that I can't set myself up for failure. So if I'm going to have a fitness plan where I have to work out at 3 p.m., man, I'm going to miss workout sessions because at 3 p.m., someone's going to call me. I'm going to get a message. I might have to travel. I'm going to have a problem at work. So whereas at 4:30, it's not going to happen. So I'm more likely to get my workouts done when there's, when I can. And that's why I work out super early in the morning, and the rest of the time, I'm running, AZOTH, and some people, might not know, but I'm also a real estate developer. So, I develop, apartment buildings, across Boston. So that's, another thing that I do. So there's my hands are definitely, really full, but it's all manageable if you grind, and that's all I do, man. I work 7 days a week, probably over 100 hours, and I just constantly work, man. So I'm always working.
Yeah, well, if you're passionate about it and you love what you're doing, then it's really not work at all. So
No.
And just from our conversations we've had in the past, it seems like you're absolutely doing what you're passionate about in life. So I imagine that makes things much easier to juggle with.
Yeah, 100%. Passion is everything, and yeah, it's all about, at the end of the day, people, I have my own podcast. We talk about self-development, all that stuff, and that's great. But to be honest, man, like, bullshit aside, it all comes down to one thing. Do you want it or not? It's like same thing with bodybuilding. People are like, okay, what can I do so I don't cheat on my diet? Like, what can I do? It's like, bro, like, if you have that question, that means you don't really care about looking a certain way. Because if you need like tricks or tips or hacks to not cheat on your diet or to make it through the day, that means that what's on the other end is just not worth it for you. You're doing that cost benefit analysis in your brain, and it's saying, okay, well, the cost of me waking up at 4:30 is more than the benefit of me being able to work out. And when you want something really badly, then the benefit is always going to outweigh the cost, no matter what the cost is. You know what I'm saying? So I think it just comes down to want. I really care about AZOTH. It's like an extension of myself. AZOTH is me. It's something that I stand for. So if AZOTH doesn't do well, it's like I'm not doing well. So I'll wake up and I'll do whatever it takes a little late in the night to make it work. And the same thing with my training. It's training is like it's not even a hobby. It's like it's part of who I am. So I would never sacrifice anything for it.
Couldn't agree more, man. I couldn't agree more. With optimizing personal productivity and just keeping health and mental well-being and all of that in line, ketogenic diets and low-carb diets have gotten a lot of hype and press lately for improving cognitive function and mental clarity and stuff. Have you messed around with that at all, or considered using stuff like BHB salts or making a nootropic around BHB?
Yeah. So to answer I'll go over the second question. I actually have looked into BHB salts and figuring out a way to make a nootropic around it. It's tough if you source it in a product. It's hard to have other ingredients in there because it takes a lot of product weight. So it's difficult to have like AZOTH has like 9 ingredients in there, so you can't have like one ingredient is just like BHB salts. Like it's a very heavy ingredient, so you can't have a lot of ingredients with it. But there's definitely been some thought process around it, and we all know, and a lot of data will attest to it, but our digestive system, our gut is super important, and this as well for dealing with how we feel and with serotonin levels, because we only think about serotonin and dopamine and in the brain and how it functions as a brain chemical, but we don't really think about it. Our digestive system is super important for those two neurotransmitters. So I've definitely played around a lot with nutrition, and absolutely. So the low carb ketogenic diet, it works for me, but it only works in the following manner, for me at least. I have to go 0 carb. When I do low carb, when I do 70 or 80 or 90, I feel tired and I feel like I'm on very low energy. But when I'm 0 and when I do a true ketogenic diet, which is high fat, high protein or medium protein, some people would even say low protein, but for me as a bodybuilder, I don't want to do that. Then I feel much better. Then I'm good. Then I feel energized and I don't actually get a slump. And then that has definitely worked for me. But I think it definitely also depends on your insulin sensitivity. Some people have it more than others. So will a low carb diet or a ketogenic diet work for everyone? No. If you're someone who has a super fast metabolism and your insulin sensitivity is different than someone who's an endomorph, then it might not work as well for you. So it's super body type dependent, but for myself, it has definitely worked. But for me, it works when I go 0 carbs, and not when I do 15 or 20 or 30. Then I feel like I'm suffering.
Have you run into any hurdles with that while doing the bodybuilding and the high volume training and intensity of that, are you running a keto-esque diet now?
Yeah, so I run a keto in the off season pretty much. The only times I do carbs is pre-workout, post-workout. That's the only time I usually use carbs. Sometimes even breakfast, but I only take the carbs around my workout. I don't really take carbs other times. When I start dieting for a contest, I usually start 24, 25 weeks out, and I'll include quite a bit of carbs, and then I'll taper down as I go at the end. I think it's more about calories for me. If I'm super low calorie and I'm already tired and doing tons of cardio and other stuff, then yes, the low carb will mess with me. But man, if you're having for my body weight, I'm about 230 right now. But so if I'm having upward of 4,000 calories, and even if it's coming from fat and protein, I don't feel like I have problems with high intensity workouts at all. I think it's all about adaptation, man. It's the same thing. Before I wanted to be more productive, so there was no time in my day to do more stuff, so I just started sleeping less. And through the first few weeks, man, it's brutal, man. I wanted to sleep the 6-7 hours, and then I was like, all right, I'm gonna sleep 4, and then I hated it. It was brutal, and then 4 became my normal, So it's all about what your body can adapt to anything,
True, very true. You're either adapting, or I've heard Andy Galpin, who's an exercise physiologist, speak about this a lot of times. He said you're either adapting or optimizing, and
yes,
it's through adaptation that we continually push our bodies to change and get better. So it's very, very well put.
Your body can do a lot, man. I think that's bodybuilding teaches you, or any training. Like, you can punish your body a lot and take it to the brink, and we don't think, because we want to protect our bodies and ourselves. So we try to stop always, but dude, you can push your body to quite a bit of extent. And, people are like, oh, I can't do 20 minutes of like fasted cardio. I'm like, come on, man. Like, our
suck it up.
our ancestors did like crazy stuff. They were like hundreds of hours on the field, and you can't do 20 minutes of cardio like without BCAAs. Like, come on. Like, there's a lot of snowflakes, man. There's just too much of that.
There absolutely is. It's, I was gonna say with that, and since we're on the training and nutrition topic, what is your daily supplement stack? Do you have a go-to pre-workout? It can be AZOTH stuff. It cannot be. Do you have, what's your typical daily supplement regimen involve?
Yeah, so I used to be, when I was younger, I used to take a lot of different stuff. Right now, my major things that I always take are, I do a lot of fish oil. I do liquid fish oil. It's super important, I think, and it's definitely helped with like inflammation, and especially with a lot of my joint health, and a lot of younger guys listening, and I'm also young, but who've been just starting training, like, I don't want to hear about the stims and stuff, but that's been super key. Second thing that just always, been a staple has been creatine. I take, about, I would say 7 to 10 grams, every workout day. So every time I work out. And then the other thing is whey protein. And then during the day, like I will, sometimes, drink coffee, but I do take quite a bit of, I take nootropics. I either take AZOTH, and I'm always looking for other company stuff that they're doing. So yeah, there are other companies, but there's some cool nootropics out there as well, which I'm like getting my hands on. I've tried some of the Genius stuff, which is really cool.
Yeah. Rob over there makes some really solid stuff up there. I've been a fan since I saw them on the scene.
Yeah, Rob's a really good dude, and they do some really cool stuff. I like some of their products, but that's about it for staple. As in, like, what I'll always use is the fish oil, is the whey protein, and is the creatine. Those have been a staple of mine. When I diet, I've like messed around a little bit with Pepto Pro as far as a fast digesting protein, which has been great. I like that a lot. And then when I'm dieting, I also have used highly branched cyclic dextrin as far as a carb source. During intra workout, I've been playing a lot with intra workout, like during my pre-contest, and a little bit in my off season. And I've definitely noticed a difference because I competed, and it definitely helps with my fullness, but also, it helps tremendously with like not losing muscle tissue, because as a natural bodybuilder, we have to get super shredded, but you also lose a ton of muscle. So my goal is always, like, in the pre-contest is like, what can I do to retain muscle tissue and not look like, and if you've seen a lot of natural bodybuilders on stage, they look like string beans, man. Like, they have no muscles because you could diet it all away. So the goal is, how do you keep muscle tissue? So, highly branched cyclic dextrin, branching amino acids, of course, huge. And then, the creatine will definitely really help. I still now and then will take leucine by itself. 5 grams, usually, post workout. I've not been taking it for a bit, but, that's another thing. So I get very creative in my pre-contest with it, but not off season. I don't really eat, I don't consume a lot of supplements, just a staple. The fish oil and the creatine and the protein. That's it.
Yeah, and what I think a lot of people may not realize is that aside from the muscle building benefits of creatine, it also, in the energy production, it also helps. It's got a number of cognitive, benefits too, that I think most people don't understand or they aren't even aware of the importance that creatine can do for brain function.
Yeah. And my thing too is, like I said, I train in the morning. The first thing, like, I wake up and I'll have a small meal. I'll go straight to the gym, like usually the 4, sometimes 3:30 in the morning. So like, if I can't take stuff that I'll feel like crap after the whole day. I've taken some stuff, man. What was it like? Dude, it was some crazy, that High Tech made. It was some crazy pre-workout they just put out. It was like brutal, man. I took it and.
Mesomorph or something?
Yes, yeah, it was Mesomorph. Yes. And it gave, like, I felt like someone was hitting my head with a jackhammer. So I was like, it was good, dude. I loved it. It was great in the gym. But I was like, the minute I got out of the gym, like, I had such a bad headache. Like, I remember one time I literally had to I was like, all right, guys, I gotta like leave the room, and I just had to lie down because I can't have that obviously happen. So after that, I've been staying away from some pre-workout stuff because I have a full day after, as well. And I know a lot of people do too. So.
Yeah. was that sticking on the mesomorph? Was that the DMAA version or the version that they released after that had the new isopropyl norepinephrine in it as their aggressive stimulant?
No, it actually was the DMAA one, because as you remember, they introduced the DMAA all of a sudden back again for like a short amount of time, like in the middle. So I remember it was, and like DMAA has like a hit or miss, man. I've taken it sometimes and I absolutely loved it, and then some other days I'll take it and it makes me feel horrible. I don't know what it is with DMAA, but it just changes every day. I take it some days and it's great, some days it's not good. I don't know if you have any insight on that.
Yeah, it's one of those things that the first few times I ever used it, I mean, it's otherworldly, the kind of focus that you can get with it. Just very similar to what the feelings that you would get on something like phenylpiracetam.
Yes.
That was in V1. It's just that altered state of focus that it's the most surreal kind of feeling. It's hard to put into words without experiencing it for yourself. But the problem is with both of those compounds, the rapid onset of tolerance is that you use it any more than 2, maybe 3 times in a week and you stop getting that hyper focus sense.
Yeah. There's a lot of good stuff, a lot of good stimulants out there, but like I said, it's for me, it's constantly changing about how I feel on it. DMA is one of those things, man. I used to love it. I used to take it all the time in college for an exam, and then I remember I was like, one exam I took and I was completely out of it after taking it. So it's one of those things that you can't have that. You need something that's consistently going to work well, and it's predictable too.
Yeah, that's where I think what's great about adaptogens is that they help give you that long sustained focus without the crash or the jitters, and it optimizes everything, which is, it's fascinating about them. Since we're on the topic of ingredients, do you have any, I guess, ingredients that you think are currently in the industry that are popular, that are somewhat overrated? It could be nootropics, it could be pre-workout stuff, post-workout, or just daily health supplements.
Yeah, I mean, there's quite a few. I mean, I can have a whole long list of stuff, and I feel like, I think, to be honest, and I'm going to take a different angle with this. So I'm going to take an angle off, since we're talking about nootropics, but I think, and a lot of nootropics, what is overrated are when they put pure stimulants in them and they call it nootropic, and when they're like, you just used, and the only thing in there is like stimulant. So I've seen a lot of nootropic formulas that are totally based out of stimulants, and I think they're overrated. And the reason why they're overrated is because they're in the wrong category.
Right.
And I'll talk about that instead of like, going on a rant on like, I don't know, dairy antler or all that stuff that's out there that's not working, and a lot of the test boosters and stuff. I think a lot of customers though, like, dude, when I started using supplements when I was like 18, which is, like 7-8 years ago, it was like, we would go in there, we had Cell Tech and Mask and all this stuff with like Muscle Tech, and I feel like and there were a lot of ingredients in there which didn't work. But now I think the tide is changing. I think a lot of stuff, like, people who are consuming are much more informed because of podcasts like these, and they're going on YouTube. Like, and when I started, we barely had YouTube at that time. Yeah. So now I think it's less happening. What I think is happening is where I think what I want to speak about is the word nootropic has been bastardized, where people are just using a pre-workout and they say it's a nootropic effect. I see that all the time. Like, oh, we have released a nootropic formula. It's like some supplement company, like even mainstream supplement companies, and you look around and there's no nootropic. There's like a choline source and the rest is all stimulants. It's like, okay, well, isn't it just a pre-workout? They just want to use nootropic as a word so that they can, get people like, oh, now they have a nootropic, but it's not a nootropic. So if it's purely based on stimulants, I think those are overrated because they're in the wrong category.
Yeah, I would agree. And I think that's a huge fall, or, a huge falling point for many of the so-called nootropics on the market, is that there's just too much caffeine in them. If it's got, I've seen some of them that have between 200 to 250 milligrams of caffeine in a nootropic. I would say you really don't need any more than 125, 150 at a maximum. You really don't need that much stimulation to get that wakefulness and that alertness from a nootropic. Yeah. I think the more that you put in on the front end, I think you end up alienating more of the consumer base, and that they don't want a super high SAM product. So what they're going to do is they're going to take half a serving of it, and then they're not going to get efficacious doses of all of the other ingredients that are in the nootropic, which is, ruins the whole point of taking it in the first place.
For sure. That's definitely the starting point. The second starting point would be a lot of the mainstream ones, and I'll actually call out On It and Alpha Brain. Like, it's a great marketing behind it, but on it, like, you don't know, I have no idea what's in it, man, like, as far as the dosages. So if you look at it carefully, like, it's all like milligrams of like stuff that, like, it's such a small dose that it's not really going to do something. So, and I think what's happening is because people don't know what to expect from a nootropic, because you have people like myself saying, look, it's not going to be a pre-workout. They're like, okay, well, so I'm not going to supposed to feel like a pre-workout. But because people know, and supplement owners know that people don't know what to feel, they'll just make anything and they'll call it a nootropic. So you have companies like a bigger company like an Onnit, they'll put out a product like Alpha Brain, and it's not much in it, man. So it's a problem. And on the other hand, you have companies that are like, okay, well, they don't know what to expect, so might just like load it up with caffeine. So we have to, I think a nootropic industry has to do a better job of putting out stuff that is a nootropic and then explaining to people, hey, this is what you're going to feel. And we have it on the both extremes. One is just, it's caffeinated stimulant, and the other is just, there's nothing in there. Look at like Zoo Nutrition or like Luminol or like Alpha Brain. Like, I don't know, these companies are doing millions and millions of sales, and we don't know like what, like, it's like, oh, you can turn the labels like, what is this, man? You know?
Yeah, 100%. You look at any of the top selling nootropics around there, you know, the big name ones, and you flip over the supplement facts panel, and it's a proprietary blend that's a total of 700 milligrams, and they've got 30 different ingredients listed in there. I mean, you're getting 5 milligrams at most of some of those compounds, which is not going to be anywhere near the dose that you need to actually elicit a benefit. And you could talk about synergism and all of that between the compounds and saying, oh, well, we can get away with minute amounts of it. The problem is none of that's proven. You can't make those claims on synergism without some kind of scientific backing on it.
No, and they're selling to a mainstream audience. So the mainstream audience obviously isn't like thinking a lot about supplements. They don't know anything about ingredients, so they're just like, oh, okay, yeah, this is great. This is people actually, people think that proprietary blend is actually a good thing because they think it's something proprietary, like it's a secret, it's like it's something good. And it's like, no, it means that they're not telling you what's in there. So.
Exactly, yeah, they want to pixie dust it and catch you on the buzzwords and the trigger words of the day, and I think a lot of consumers also don't realize that for a couple $100, you could easily send that product to a lab, get the exact breakdown of it, and then you blow their whole proprietary blend. So I think the guise of a prop blend, it's just a farce that companies are trying to do to pull one over on the consumer.
Absolutely. I totally agree. So those are my things that are overrated for sure.
Gotcha. Awesome. Let's talk about the Enlightened Millennial a little bit. Your podcast that you've had going for a while. What's the purpose behind it for the people out there listening that haven't tuned into it yet? And if you haven't, go subscribe to it right now. Shameless plug. For the Enlightened Millennial podcast. What's the goal behind it? What's the direction you're taking it in, and why'd you start it?
Yeah, man. So the real goal with with Enlightened Millennial was I feel like I'm a little bit outside the supplement industry too. As far as like this, obviously I've worked outside of it as an attorney, in law school, all that stuff. And I feel like a lot of millennials are a little bit, because it's such a new age, man, like we don't, the traditional ways of doing things, like the way that we get a job, the way we interact with one another, the workplace, everything's shifted so quickly, dude. Like it's crazy. Like if you ask, most of the jobs that a lot of us are doing, if you told our parents, like, I've never heard of these things, like, using stuff like social media, freelancing and stuff like that, like those are all new things, and you can make a great living with it, but we're still trying to figure out how things are working. And I feel like a lot of people are kind of lost. And what I wanted to do was just like, not really preach or advise. That's not what it is. It's just having a conversation about some of the topics that people have, like that people on people's minds. Like, what is it? What is the thing about like social media? Like, what is it about? Like, how do you start a company? Like, what does it mean to be successful? Like, how do we deal with like networking today? Like, so I'm just bringing up everyday conversations, and I'm doing that with a good friend of mine. The way it actually worked is that we were actually we're getting dinner one time. We're getting dinner, and we're getting some drinks, and we're talking, and we're having a great conversation. He was like, man, you should record this. And I was like, oh, maybe we should. And he's like, why don't we put this into a podcast? And we kept like meeting up and getting food and recording, and all of our recordings, we put it on iTunes, and it actually ended up being pretty decently successful. We just launched back in like somewhere around the late summer. We have we're gonna reach a little bit over 2,000 subscribers on iTunes, and we're doing well, whatever YouTube channel, and it's great. The goal really is like, it's like a conversation that we have, and it's like almost like people listening in, they're part of the conversation. And it's about, we explore topics of mostly in the backdrop of like how to be successful as a millennial today with the crazy world we have. And that's what it's all about. And of course, it's an AZOTH branded podcast, which means that AZOTH is kind of an extension of what this brand stands for, which is about peak performance, but also about kind of productivity and how to make it and how to be successful. So, and it's obviously more than just working out and stuff. So that's kind of the goal of this the podcast, man.
Excellent. I think there's and you can probably speak to this as well, is that there's a stigma with the millennial generation.
Yes.
Overall, that they're not willing to work. They want their rewards now and have the work ethic is absent, pretty much altogether. What is that? Are you trying to change that narrative a little bit with the podcast? And what's been your experience? Because I've seen people that are around our age that are now, I'm a few years older than you, but I've seen people at our age that are kind of on both sides of the spectrum. You've got the ones that are the dreamers that keep saying they want stuff and they want all of these things, but they lack any modicum of work ethic whatsoever. And then you have the other ones that are, balls to the wall busy and trying to do as much as they can, as quickly as they can, and as well as they can.
Yeah, dude, it's interesting. I feel like, dude, every generation, like the parents are always like, oh, this generation is lazy. And like, yeah. I honestly think it's like been like that. It's like, I was having a conversation with my dad the other day. He's like, yeah, his parents would say the same thing about his generation. So has it changed? No. I think what's changed now though is there's a lot of confusion. So the people that are quote unquote the entitled and lazy, they would have always been quote unquote lazy. Yeah. But I think that what has changed a little bit is that we have so much accessible. Like I posted about this on my Instagram. I was like, if you have like just food and water and a shelter and you have an internet connection, you can make a lot of money. Like you can be great and do a lot of great things. You don't actually have to leave your house to have a successful business or anything like that. And so because we know we have that available, it's causing a lot of confusion for people because they think it's sometimes easier than it actually is, because the work ethic that was required back in the day when you're working in, the factories or the corporate ladder, yes, you can do that now at home, but you still have to work as hard. And that's where a lot of people don't really understand that. And I think that's where the quote unquote complacency comes in, because like, oh, okay, well, I was just having a conversation with another kid. He was like, okay, well, I'm just going to start you have an Amazon business. I'll start one. Do you think I can, do like a lot of business in like the next 3 months? I was like, bro, like, what are you talking about? Like, I've been doing this for like years. Like, you can't do it that quickly. You know what I'm saying? So, because they're like, okay, I saw this, you get targeted on Instagram daily, man. Like there's like people who coach stuff like, hey, take my program, 10, 20 days about how I started a $100,000 Amazon business or some shit. And it's like, that's not true. And because we know that it's easy to get started, we think it's easy to keep going, but that's not true. It might be easy to get started, but to keep going, it's the same work ethic. And I think that's where the confusion lies. And I think there's a lot of people who are working, who are super resourceful, they're super hardworking, and they would have been hardworking always, and the people who are lazy would always have been lazy. But then there is definitely kind of a new class of kids or people that are not either, but they think they're just living in an illusion. They're not actually super lazy maybe, but they're just not super, they think because it's so easy, like it's so accessible now that it's easy, but accessibility and easiness are not the same things. And they're getting confused today because in the palm of our hands and our smartphones, man, we can reach everyone. We can talk to anyone. We have everything in our pocket, all the information in the world. But just because you have it in your pocket doesn't mean that it's easy to do that. Like even on the internet to find good information now today, like I got to do some work, man. I can't just go on Google and look at news. Most of it is garbage stuff, So you always need to do work, even though it's more accessible.
Yeah. And I would say one of the challenges with the dramatic increase in the number of people working from home is that especially if you're working for yourself, is that you don't have the boss that you would in the corporate structure giving you deadlines. It's all on yourself. So you have to have a lot of intrinsic motivation. I mean, you're definitely going to have external motivators that you want to maybe move into a bigger house, or you want a newer car, or you want to sell X amount of dollars. But the root of all of that still has to be coming from within you, that you want to build something big, or you want to be great at particular things.
Oh, that's so true, man. And I'm so glad you mentioned that, because if you think about it, how we've been raised in our education and school system based on the old economy, right? Where you go in a job and like someone is telling you what to do pretty much. Mm-hmm. So like you go to class and like someone gave me a schedule, someone gave me a curriculum, And then I went to college, and I got to choose some classes, but then mostly it was, I was like, I want this major, and then they told me what to do.
Right.
And that prepares you for working in a job, and you can be very successful, like, if you know how to take, work along with other people, and know if someone's giving you a task and doing it. But now what's happening is those same kids are being trained in the old economy ways, and they're like, okay, I'm going to be an entrepreneur, I'm going to be a freelancer, and I'm going to be, but they have never cultivated those skills, and they're still waiting for someone to give them something. But you're totally right. I've actually noticed that most people that work from home, they actually get more complacent than when they were working a full time, and it was their side hustle a lot of times, because they don't have that, like you said, that intrinsic motivation, but also the work ethic. And work ethic isn't always about working hard; it's about applied knowledge, right? It's about applied work ethic. So you need a different work ethic being a freelancer versus being having good work ethic for working in a law firm, when you're an associate. And yes, that's a totally different work ethic. So I think people have the work ethic because they're taught the work ethic of the old economy, but they're trying to do something different, which is like, I want to break the mold. I want to be a freelancer. I want to be an entrepreneur, but they can't keep their shit together, because literally, you're right, man. And this, man, you're a successful freelancer, writer, and there's no one really telling you what to do. So you have to figure out your own schedule, write on your own times, and working from home is actually pretty challenging because we're not taught how to do that,
Yeah, Sandy and I have had this conversation a lot, and since I've been doing this freelancing thing, I did engineering for 8 years, oil and gas design, and then I quit that. My parents, my dad was an engineer for 30 years, his grandpa was an engineer for 30 years, and my younger brother's an engineer, so we're all a bunch of math and science nerds. And they thought I was crazy when I said, well, I'm going to quit this very stable, successful job to go write about dietary supplements and formulate products and things like that. And they thought I was crazy. And, do I know what my ultimate end goal is? No. Have the past 3 years been incredibly enlightening, and I've learned a lot, and I've learned more now than I think I ever did in the 8 years of engineering. And I just put my head down each day and continue to work and learn more and do that. And it's just, I say I'm stumbling my way along the road of success is the best way I can describe it. You don't really know how it is, but things keep working out the more that you dedicate yourself to your craft and just keep trying to do the best work possible for the people that you work with and encounter. And everything does work out, at least from my experiences, at least.
Oh yeah. Well, and like in your case, like you're totally right. Like you can't, like, there's not a lot of quote unquote real life role models like that have done the path before. So like, when you're like working in a company or something, I can like, look at what like parents did or uncles or aunts or family friends, because they've done that like work, the 9 to 5 and grown in that. Right. But if I'm doing a freelance work, like I don't have like, you're probably not going to have like, hundreds of role models who have done the same thing. They're probably on the internet, but they're not real life people. So you almost have to like do it yourself as being a pioneer. So, and that's part of the new economy, the way we live in. And we're in our generation, we're like the first ones that are doing it. So that's where the confusion a lot of times stems. And that's I guess a little bit the goal. Having those conversations, is what I'm trying to do with the podcast.
Yeah. I find it incredibly exhilarating. Just figuring out things for yourself and just kind of going through it. And it's, I think you're doing a great job by explaining and exploring those topics on the Enlightened Millennial.
Absolutely, man. I appreciate it.
It's definitely a cool thing to do. Getting back to some of the supplement stuff, if you don't mind, I want to see, do you ever foresee any powder versions of either products coming out soon or developing a powder based formula? Because I guess what made you decide to launch capsules? And will we ever see some powders? Because I'm a person that likes to drink their supplements.
Yes. So as I told you, in college I developed this pre-workout, and it was a powdered formula. Mm-hmm. And I thought it was going to be great. It tasted good. It was going to be great. And then I started marketing it to everyday people, and they had no clue what the powder is. They're like, I don't know, like, what is it? People were asking me, do I have to mix it? Like, can I use a spoon? Like, people actually don't know. And that's when my eyes opened up that they weren't ignorant. I was ignorant, because I'm used to drinking tons of powders and mixing my stuff. And I love, like, the taste of pre-workout, like, powder. Yeah, it's great. I love it.
It's awesome.
But a lot of people actually, it scares them away. And, that was one consideration. I never thought about it really, but people actually don't really like the whole powder thing, because it reminds them actually when they were like, sick, like when they're taking medication or when they're kids. And so it's actually not very popular to take powder. So that's why a lot of the mainstream supplements like joint stuff, multivitamins are all in capsules, because everyday people, they're more comfortable swallowing capsules and pills than they are powder. So that was like I knew like if I wanted to break in the more mainstream barrier, I had to, like I said, it goes back to what I was said before, making sure my product fits their lifestyle and them not me to say, no, you need to take a powder because that's how it works. I'm like, okay, well, if that fits your lifestyle better, you can store this product in your car, in your locker. You can put it in your, you can take capsules. You can put it before presentation. You can put it in your pocket if you want. That was the consideration that went into it. That was the first thing. Second thing is, this is a business standpoint. Powder is heavier, and that's a problem because if powder is heavier, it means the shipping is more expensive. So when I was shipping, if I'm shipping product to California and I'm shipping a 30 serving powder, I'm spending, $6, $7, $8, sometimes $9 for over, 2-day priority shipping. Whereas capsules, they're lighter and they're easier and they don't, they stay more stable. So it's actually, much more cost effective to ship, capsules versus powder. The third consideration is taste. So with powder, you have to worry about, is it going to taste right? Now I have to have 2 flavors. I have to have fruit punch and apple and orange, and like how much of each do I order? Like what are people going to like? Now I don't have to worry about any of that stuff because a lot of times, a lot of pre-workouts are good stuff, but then people write on Amazon reviews, oh, the flavor sucks. I'm like, who cares? Like if it works, right? But for a lot of people, the flavor is important and I get it. But with capsules, I don't have to worry about all that stuff. I don't have to worry about people getting scared with capsules. I don't get people scared about, oh, I don't know what the powder is. I'm not going to get hundreds of calls on customer service about how to take a powder. And the second thing is it's much more cost effective to ship. And I could also ship internationally, which is from the States, which is very important for me. Going through customs with powder is a whole nother problem. And then third, I don't have to worry about taste, but also a lot of times the powder gets clunky and stuff. And that will screw you up. So you got to have the right manufacturer, right storage facility. So it's definitely a huge hurdle. It's very popular in the supplement industry. I personally I like powders more than capsules personally because I like the experience of powders. But I know that I was, based on my market demographic, I was a little bit in the minority. So I'm going to stick to the capsules for now. That's the reason why.
That was a great answer, man. That makes perfect sense when you're saying that just the average consumer appreciates the pills more and they feel more comfortable with it. I don't think that's something that's been addressed.
No, we don't think about it, right? That's why I started this conversation with, man, like we have to get out of our bubble. And if you want to grow outside the supplement industry, because you look at the supplement industry, like I'm sure you've been involved. It's pretty small, man. Like like maybe 50 to 100 people, and those are the people that are pretty much in and out, and everyone's kind of the same. And like maybe 20 people run the whole thing. So like that's great, but like what about moving outside of it? And not a lot of people are trying to be like, oh, what if I can just like target like an attorney in a law firm to take supplements. We don't think about them, but we should. Maybe they want to take supplements too. And we only talk to athletes in the industry and people in the industry, but I wanted to find ways in which I could help like other people outside the industry as well.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea. What do you think about as far as expanding the reach of nootropics and just getting them into different demographics? What do you think about, I guess, a functional food version of a nootropic, infusing like a chocolate bar or something with alpha GPC and huperzine or theanine, stuff like that?
Yeah,
do you see that ever being a possibility?
Yes, that's a great thing. I've definitely thought about it. I know there's a company doing that already with chewing gum,
right?
Neurogum, and I think functional foods are something that are are probably going to be. I don't know if they'll ever catch up like tremendously, but I think there's definitely a new wave of supplement companies that are going to do that. And the reason why they're going to do that is because of nootropics, and the reason why is because I mentioned this before, but nootropics are interesting because it's one of the first times where it's not actually started in the supplement industry. It started in the tech industry. Like Silicon Valley started the whole nootropic thing, which is strange. Like they never start supplements. We start supplements in our industry. Like whey protein is first in bodybuilders and the bodybuilding audience, then it goes to the fitness audience, and then everyone starts using it. Nootropics has been the other side. So now we're seeing a lot of nootropic companies have nothing to do with the fitness industry. So the reason why I bring that up now is because I feel like the functional food and doing more in the dietary supplement space, I think that's going to come from Silicon Valley, and they have the deep pockets and the engineers and stuff to figure that out. Always the difficult part too is like when you're dealing with something that you consume. Like number one, of course, is the liability aspect of it, but the other part is you're dealing with something palatable, so it has to taste good, and that's any supplement formulator will tell you it's like a huge nightmare to have something where it actually works like really well and has like, man, this is the greatest formula ever. but you can't get the taste right. And that's always the problem. So finding everything is tough.
Yeah, especially with ingredients like adaptogens, especially ashwagandha.
Yes.
Teacrine is also another horrible tasting compound.
Yeah. You can taste it when you take AZOTH too. You can taste it. Like when
You definitely get the earthy kind of taste to it, or the
Absolutely.
I don't know. It's not floral, but it's it's earthy is the best way I can describe it.
Right. Yeah, and people have commented about it. Like, man, people on Amazon complain that it doesn't taste good. I was like, man, thank God it's not a powder then, because I couldn't have made AZOTH if it was in powder form. Like, I don't know. I mean, never say never, but it would be very difficult to have the same ingredient and then also making it taste good, because people would just like throw it up.
Yeah. I know it's in particular sulbutamine, because they have a tasteless form of teacrine now, but sulbutamine and ashwagandha would be the two biggest hurdles in trying to get that thing taste halfway decent.
Yes, you can fit more ingredient wise, right? Because the capsule only holds about 700 milligrams or 690 milligrams in a beer capsule, so you can fit more in a powder. But it's all the things that I just mentioned before, which make it a little bit of a problem. So
yeah, with growing the market space, the economy's has been on a steady rise for a while now, and people are obviously shelling out more willing to shell out money for extraneous kind of things like nootropics or, other kind of joint supplements and stuff like that. Do you see the bubble bursting on the industry anytime soon as far as the popularity and the increase in companies joining the nootropics and supplement space in general? And where do you think the consumers go if the market kind of plateaus in the coming year or two?
Yeah, I mean, the economy is obviously doing super well, and why that's important is because people will spend money on stuff that they don't 100% need, right? And we see a huge market. The supplement industry has been on the rise. Like, it has never actually taken a dip since it started growing, from the 80s, 90s until now. It's just huge. I mean, you're talking about an industry that contributes a little bit over like $125 billion in the U.S. economy. It's huge. And if you want to take it as far as like caffeine, I mean, caffeine plays like a percentage point role in the entire US GDP. So it's huge. So I don't think people are, what's going to happen is I forecast the following. If there is a dip in the market, I don't know if it's going to be as crazy as people say it's going to be 2008 again. I don't think we have more protections and measures to not have it happen that way. But what I think is going to happen is I think people are still going to probably the good supplements that people feel like are a staple and that are actually needed are going to stay. And the ones that people are just trying to test out and they're not really care about as much are going to go. I think that's really what's going to happen. I think it's going to be a little bit harder for newer supplement companies to really immediately get market share, like capture some market share. I think it's going to be harder because people are going to be like, well, look, I have money to spend. I don't have, maybe it's not too much extra money. So I'm rather going to spend it on something that I know that I've already tried before and that I know people are using, my friends are using, than in a new company that that I don't know about. Because right now people are like, okay, I haven't heard of this new company before. Let me just give them $50 and see where it goes. I think that's going to happen. Less of that's going to happen.
Mm-hmm. Awesome.
Yeah.
All right, man. Well, then, in wrapping things up, because we could keep going at this for about another 2 hours easily, but I have a feeling some people probably stopped listening about an hour and a half ago. So,
right.
I was gonna say, where do you see AZOTH in the next 12 months and a year, 12 months and 2 years possibly, and then we'll start wrapping things up from there.
Yeah, man. The goal is as follows. I want more people who are interested in peak productivity to give AZOTH a try. That's it. I think that's right now. I think people who are into peak productivity, they're not maybe using any supplements, or they're just using caffeine. And I want them to be able to know, like, oh, I want to be more productive. Okay, like, let me think about AZOTH. That's the only goal. Like, it should be on their minds. And I want to do that at the national level, but also I'm trying to find ways right now. I'm actually working with a distributor in Australia. We have a distributor in the UK and also in the EU. Those are very hard markets to penetrate with our ingredients, so we'll have to change our formula to really scale there. But that's the goal, man. I want people that's the goal. People who want to be productive, they should have AZOTH on their mind or heard of AZOTH. And I'll never say, hey, like, I want everyone that I know and everyone to just use AZOTH, because supplements don't work for everyone. So forcing people, oh, you need to use my product, no, but I want them to know about it. That's an option there. That's my long-term goal. That's the goal that I want to have in a year. That more people know it's out there, and then they can make their choice whether it works. And there's people it's not going to work for. I've had people say, hey man, I've used this thing, but I don't really feel much. And that's life. Like, I'm never going to be like, oh man, like, you don't know what you're doing. It's a wrong thing, or that it's not. Like, some products just don't work. It's like, I never try to go behind people and like force them to buy, or on our website. There's no like crazy pop-ups or like retargeting. I never send any emails to like buy now, and like this crazy shit. I don't do that, just because if you have a good product and more people talk about it and they like it, they'll recommend other people about it. That's it. Like,
yeah, more organically growing the company.
Yeah, that's the goal. Organic growth. Yep. I don't do any spam. You won't see us ever doing like, sell out in 20 seconds. Like, there's a clock ticking on the e-commerce, or like crazy retargeting, or like 50 pop-ups and like sending you massive spam. Like, we just don't do that. And a lot of companies, digital companies, have said, what the hell, you guys are not doing anything on your website. Like, but I was like, no, we're fine. Like, we won't do that. And that goes back to what I said earlier about trusting your own gut versus doing what everyone else is doing. And we need that more in the supplement industry, because I always say, go on Instagram right now, take your hand, cover the handle of any fitness company, and try to guess which fitness company it is. And you won't know, because all the fitness companies have the exact same Instagram feeds with the exact same posts, and it looks exactly the same. There's no innovation. So we don't plan to do any of that stuff. So I want to actually grow through word of mouth marketing. That's my goal. Not actually even through social. It's word of mouth.
Well, that'll be the key to sustainably growing the company, even and mitigating the pitfalls of the economy. I think the more naturally you can grow and the slower and more sustainably you can grow, it's better for the long haul. I would assume.
Yeah. I always say your product is not what you tell customers your product is. Your product is what customers tell other customers your product is, and that's very important for supplement, all companies to recognize, because I can go out and tell everyone, hey man, AZOTH is the greatest thing, but I own AZOTH, so what weight does that carry, right? If I'm throwing ads, of course I'll say it's the greatest, but if you tell other people, hey man, I've used it, or Sandy's used it and she likes it, that's great. That's what I'm going for. So more people that like the product, and more people who are into the productivity scene that know about AZOTH. That's the only goal. So it's not something crazy. A lot of CEOs would be like, man, I want to have 80% market share and make billions of dollars. And I love ambitious people, but that's, I have a different concept of what it takes to get there. So.
Yeah. What are the challenges as far as expanding the company into foreign markets like Australia, Europe, and Asia?
Yeah, the biggest problem is sulbutamine and hordenine. So sulbutamine is illegal. Now let me rephrase that. It's not illegal, but it's something that's up in the air and questionable in Europe.
Right.
So in Europe, in order to actually distribute the products large scale, we'd have to reformulate the product. So Total Energy would be fine, but we'd have to take out sulbutamine. That we're already probably in the works already of going to do that. Hordenine is the next to go in the US too. So our next batch will not have hordenine HCl anymore. We already got some notifications that we have to take it out, and then we're actually going to switch it with Bacopa. So that's going to be you're the first one to know, so now on the show, because I haven't told anyone about this, but
fantastic. I remember we had discussed that idea a while back.
Yes, I had felt
is it hordenine is it the thing Amazon doesn't like, or is the FDA getting ready to come quash that too?
I think it's a thing that I think Amazon is going to be a little bit slower to catch on, but it's something that the FDA has sent out feelers that they won't like. And when I say feelers, what they will do is it will be like PayPal won't like it, or Stripe won't like it, and then they will. And I don't want to go to that. And then all of a sudden, what will happen is Amazon will one day, without giving you notice, decide they don't like it, and they'll just they'll just stop your product. And I'm sure you're going to talk to a lot of supplement owners on the podcast who will say, man, Amazon, they screwed us over. One day they just took our product out. I was just talking to Rob from Genius, who was telling me the same thing. So this is, I don't want to deal with that anymore. So what we're doing is, I like to take the precautions beforehand. So hordenine is going to be the next to, have a way where it's going to be shut down, by the FDA. So we already know that's going to happen. So we're going to switch it with Bacopa. That's in the US though. And in Europe and in Australia, they have even more stringent requirements. So they have requirements you have to submit it to a council, and they'll look at all the ingredients, and then they'll decide whether it goes or not. So all the supplement companies that sell products there, legally, they actually have to change their formula. So.
Yeah, it's for a lot of people, there are very stringent, ingredient requirements. I know Yohimbe is blocked. I think in Australia, Yohimbine is blocked, and agmatine is a no-no in the EU.
Yes.
for use in powders and stuff. So it's crazy, I guess, trying to come up with all the different formulas and whatnot, and juggling the different. Well, that's one other thing. If I can keep you for a few minutes longer,
Of course, man. Of course.
For manufacturing purposes, when you're working in foreign markets, is it typical of companies to source a manufacturer in that native country, the new market, or still manufacture everything domestically and then just ship it?
Yeah, so I would say it's more, here's what I would say. So companies do both. So if you can ship it, but then the problem is that you're dealing with export and import laws in those countries, because then you have to actually make it through the border. So if you are shipping like retail, like 100 units, 50 units, 150, you'll be fine. No one's gonna, you're not a problem. But otherwise, you're gonna pay a massive tax on it if they open it up and they're shipping 1,000 bottles. So actually, a lot of supplement companies, and this is probably the better way to do it, is actually find a manufacturing partner in that country. So that's the next step we're taking. We're actually going to be manufacturing our products in the UK now for our because we have a very strong presence in the UK through powermyself.com, and we are actually going to manufacture them in the UK, because shipping it from here from our manufacturer, it's a nightmare, because then we pay a ridiculous amount for shipping fees, and then you got to pay all the customs, and and it takes like 2 weeks or 10 days, and it doesn't make a lot of sense. So actually, it's better to do it there, because then you're like, all right, then you can say that manufacturer, look, you know the laws, it's your problem, you got to be compliant. Right now, if I'm with an American manufacturer, I can't. Who am I going to hold liable if someone in Europe gets sick from my product?
Yeah, that's true.
It's just like I can go manufacturing, but manufacturers can be, look, we are only compliant with U.S. law. So I know for a fact a lot of supplement companies produce it over there. It makes more sense. But I also know that there are some larger supplement companies that just ship it, and you'll see in the price. So when I go to India, I go there in a store, like my grandparents live there, and I see like Whey Protein, like Optimum is like the 4-pound bottle is $110. It's because they add all the shipping, tax, and there they import. They don't produce anything in Asia because they don't trust. I mean, I wouldn't either. It's the manufacturing isn't strong, and the local communities there, they don't trust their own country either. So they want imported stuff. So in Asia, if you say, oh, it's made in China, if you go to China, like, oh, Chinese made protein, they don't want to take it themselves. They want it, right? Same thing in India. They're like, oh, is it from America? Then they'll use it. If it's from India, they don't want it. So yeah, it's in those markets. It's also a marketing thing. So rather than in Europe and in Australia, UK, I mean, those guys trust their own countries and their own, governments where to help them produce good stuff. So yeah, I hope that kind of answered that question.
Yeah, perfectly. Awesome, Prady. Well, thank you for being as generous with your time with me today as you were. This was fantastic. Let everybody know where they can find AZOTH, best channels to look you up, and the Enlightened Millennial podcast. And if you want to do a quick pitch on why they should choose AZOTH as their nootropic, if they're first-time newbies to nootropics, go ahead.
Absolutely. So you can find AZOTH, our products, on officialazoth.com, or you can just go on Amazon and just type in nootropic or AZOTH and you'll find it. Now, everything that we just mentioned, the podcast, the Enlightened Millennial, all that we do is you can find all of it on officialazoth.com. So it's all on one place, or the best place I would say, we are very active on Instagram. Again, it's you just type in Seeking AZOTH or AZOTH and you'll be able to find it. Now, as far as using the product, this product that I created with AZOTH, the goal is to help you become more productive. The goal is to help you find a little more time in your day that usually gets lost in feeling tired, feeling sluggish, feeling unproductive. And the goal was to make you feel that you have more power in your day to get more stuff done. That's the goal. So if you care about getting more shit done, you should give AZOTH a try. Or I would even say try out the product ingredients by themselves and see how they work for you. And you'll notice probably a really cool effect. You can stack it with your pre-workout. You can use it with caffeine. The sky's the limit with this because it's not going to really conflict with any other stuff that you're taking. So it's not like a lot of people like their pre-workout. Take it with your pre-workout. There's nothing in there that's going to conflict with it. And this is really made for everyone. Like I know people who are working parents that are taking it. I don't know, working professionals taking it. I know a lot of people, they take it and then they give it to their parents and their parents love it and then they buy it. So it's really a wide audience for this stuff, and you can play around with the dosage quite effectively. We've recently raised the amount of capsules in the product, so it's not 30 capsules anymore, it's 45, so you get a little more bang for your buck. But yeah, I'm super accessible. you can always reach us through Instagram or through our website. You can chat with, myself or one of the reps, and, I'm more than happy to hook you guys up if you want to try any samples too.
Perfect. That's awesome, Prady. And I'm going to include links to everything in the description and the show notes for all of this when it gets uploaded. So, yeah, man, thank you so much again for spending some time with me. And we're gonna do this again. Trust me. This
awesome.
is gas. And we'll do this again in a couple of weeks and nerd out some more on nootropics and the business and everything else.
Of course, man. Yeah, dude. Let me know. Like I always say, we like to listen to the users and listeners. So if people have any questions, and maybe it's the business side of stuff. Like a lot of people are interested in stuff. Let me know. I'm more than happy to share more, open up, and get more into business, price, how that all works, or the nootropic side, man. Anything that you feel people listeners are interested in, man. And yeah, thanks for the opportunity, my friend. I really appreciate it. And I truly value your time, but I also value your friendship a lot. So you're one of the probably stand-up guys I've met in the industry, and it means a lot for me to be able to share some airtime with you, man. So thank you so much.
I appreciate it, man. That's incredibly, I'm incredibly humbled to hear that. Thank you.
Awesome, my friend. Hey, have a good rest of your day, and we'll be in touch very soon, man.
All right, buddy. Have a good one.
All right, man. Bye-bye.